Hey everyone, this is Alex. DaVinci Resolve 17 is released officially. And in this video, we're gonna check out the new feature guide, DaVinci Resolve. So if you want to read it, this is a PDF of 350 pages. Well, this video is going to be more visual. I won't just read that to you. I'm gonna show you examples. And I'm going to try to go through the 300 new features of the software. And obviously, I'm going to do another video for the top 10 new features, which, well, just subscribe and hit that like button while you're down there. All right. And I'll probably regret doing this video because that's going to be so long going through all those pages. If you want this document, just go to the support center on the Blackmagic Design website. Currently, it is right here, but if you go later, you have to scroll down, download here, and it's yours. Obviously, this is a huge document and probably a huge video, so timestamps are there. You can jump on the sections you want, and we're gonna begin, of course, with should you update or not? Of course. And if you currently own the studio version, paying version, you will be able to upgrade for free to the version 17. So let's start right away. Should you go here, check update, and upgrade your software? Well, that depends. Well, do you actually need some new features? Well, you're gonna have to watch the entire video, of course. But maybe you are on a big project, right? And everything is going fine. So don't upgrade right now. Just wait a little bit. If you want more details on if you should upgrade or not, I actually made a video. Look at it. The link is in the corner and in the description below in the link sections. And you'll be able to determine if you are yes or no eligible, or if you should upgrade, if it's good for you or not. Second question, what is the minimum system requirements? And so here are the minimum system requirements by Blackmagic Design for Mac, Windows, and Linux. But there's not a lot of specifics, right? So here are some specifics if you ever need some. And here are my video specs or my computer specs. And this is not a, should I say, quote, workstation machine, but anything beyond the 5800X CPU from Ryzen should be fine for a lot of jobs. Now, obviously, if I do just little YouTube videos like these, this is fine. But if you go into the production world where you're going to do, for example, a movie feature, obviously your hardware will change for something bigger or more of a workstation module, something like a Threadripper or any machine workstation server processor. So let's start with the overall interface improvements. A lot of little things like 1,000 cuts. Well, there's only 300 new features, but let's just say, for example, right away you have the effect library open right now. Let's go in titles, and you actually can have a preview of whatever you have. And also, if you go left and right on all these thumbnails, you'll be able to see the previews. Same thing for the Fusion titles. Go left and right on these, and you'll actually see the previews. Depending on your card or whatever processor, of course, it could take a few seconds, but basically you'll be able to sample it exactly like that. So this will work actually for video transitions. You'll be able to do it. You can see that for right now. And this is so useful for a lot of things, especially if you're actually searching for something. Titles, generators, well, nothing really to see, but it's gonna show you the generator. So it's good for transitions, title, effects. They added, of course, a thumbnail. So we have a mini thumbnail for each title. Generators. For generators, it's actually very useful because you see it right away at a glance instead of having only text. But for example, for the effects, you have small icons. So they actually added all icons for every single one, which is huge. How about audio effect? Well, now you can actually just drag and drop, and boom, you're gonna have this new screen that is going to appear depending on what you're using. So let's say what I use, dialogue processor, very useful. You can add multiple, right? 5 of 5. Yes, let's do it. So it's going to show you right away. And a little bit later, I'm going to show you where to go and get it back if you need that screen again. So there's a new inspector or improve inspector, right? If you click right here, and when you transfer your clips, zoom in, whatever you're doing, this new tab is actually new things you can go on. For example, video, audio, effect, transition, image, and files. So you can actually disable or activate or deactivate a control, removing transition right away in one click, which is very useful instead of rechanging that or resetting and losing your settings. Very useful because the settings are staying there. And I'm showing you on the edit page, but the inspector is changed also on the other pages. As you can see, the controls are not automatically expanded, so just double click on it. No, just click on it. Just click on it and it's gonna open up. Can I do this? Yeah, just click on it. I thought it was double clicking, but you can actually double click. It looks like it's going faster when I double click. Obviously, they all have reset buttons, so you can reset them, no problem. In the video tab, you'll have all the common things, retime scaling, lens correction, all these are here. And when you want to go to the audio, well, you just go to the audio tab, and here you have all your settings. And there's the equalizer that is now here, which is the basic equalizer, disabled by default, but just a click here and it's now enabled. But of course, there's more different equalizer in the effect tab, which we're gonna go later. Speaking of effects, let's go. So of course, you have 3 sections, Fusion, OpenFX, and audio. Right now, I only have audio right here, noise reduction, dialogue processor, which I added myself just by going into audio and dragging that on the audio clip. If there are no effects assigned with the audio, you won't be able to go on the effect tab. Obviously, if you have some transitions, you're gonna have something in the transition tab. Let's add one right away. So let's add a cross dissolve in between. And now the transition tab is open. I'm not sure if this, yep. You can click anywhere, either on the transition itself or on the videos, and the transition will be here. For the image tab, they actually say that this is for the camera raw parameters. Since I only have pictures currently in raw, I can cheat. This is a Canon file. They actually write in the documentation that you can change this if you have a camera or if you have a picture in RAW, Canon or Nikon. So obviously if you have a Blackmagic camera RAW file or a clip, you'll see here instead of still RAW, Blackmagic camera RAW, and you'll be able to adjust those settings right here. The File tab provides a consolidated way of view and edit media file metadata. So you have the clip details right here, which is pretty useful for the frame rate or audio codec. Let's go on the file which actually has some audio. So there we go. And you can change the metadata, which can be very useful. And clip colors. You'll also see timecode if you have some. Show panel in workspace submenu. They do specify that the panels such as inspector, media pool, so these over here and these over here are dependent on which page you're working in. Of course, yes, when you're going to others, for example, the inspector is not there right now on the cut page, but it's there here. Alternatively, you can choose your panel and workspace, of course. You can, of course, show them here. These are very mostly useful instead. If you decide you want to hide it or make a little bit more room. This is so useful. I don't know if I remember that 16 had or did not have that. And of course, you can also go into the keyboard customization. And now you're gonna have to find how to get there and how to do it because I don't go into that menu. Show page navigation. You can now show and hide the page navigation icon at the bottom of the DaVinci Resolve. You can go to Workspace, Show Page Navigation. Oh, there it is. Show page navigation. So you can remove it to have a little bit more space at the bottom. And you can also, remember, right-click here. Now that's not new, I think. Improve editing of parameter value using arrow keys. So obviously, when you go to a value, you can click and drag if you want to, right? Double click on it. So double click. I see the highlight that appears. You left and right arrows to navigate the cursor and you can go inside. That's pretty cool. Up and down value to go up or down. Oh, this is cool. So you can actually go up and down where you are at. Viewer overlay submenu. So viewer overlay right here. It provides a dedicated command for turning all overlays on and off, toggle on off, which can be toggled from the keyboard by hitting Shift and accent grave, which is in French. Okay, that's interesting. So toggle on and off. But yes, actually before I was just clicking on it to see it. So if you go to Fusion, for example, which one I use, OpenFX sometimes, then you can see it and move it. Transform, same thing, just click on it. Viewer, fast forward, and rewind speed indicator. I actually saw that when I tested the speed editor. Let's say Shift L for fast forward. Let's go here. Let's do Shift L, 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 L. So yeah, okay, it's working. macOS title bar integration. I'm using Windows right here, so I can't actually show you, but in DaVinci Resolve 17, it has removed the white title bar previously found at the top of the DaVinci Resolve window in macOS, and it's now integrated in the graphical user interface. Assign capture and playback to separate devices. So if you have more than one Blackmagic Design video device connected to your machine, you can now change them independently. So let's see the preferences. Audio I/O. So if you have multiple machines, they're going to actually be here. So this is where you're going to find all those settings. New resize filter options. DaVinci Resolve that allows you to take control of the exact algorithm used in all resizing operations. I thought at first there was something in here, but no, it's actually in the image scaling option of your project settings, resize filter, custom, and then here you can choose your own method or methodology. And it's supposed to be also available when you go into the resize filter drop-down menu in the retime and scaling section of the video tab of the inspector. Now I have the ability to enable and disable OpenFX plugins on startup. So if you go into the preferences, go to the video plugin, and you'll be able to see them here. Hey, I have none. This is actually very useful to check and validate if something is crashing a lot. You can disable them all and one by one add them, and that's actually going to be more productive if your DaVinci Resolve does not crash. Pro Tool keyboard customization. Interesting. If you're coming from Pro Tools and you want to have about the same keyboard shortcut, and you can choose the Pro Tool layout, collaborative workflow improvement. So in 17, they introduced more major performance gains in the collaborative workflow. If you're using the free version, you can now also use the collaboration tools, and it's now a separate download from the product itself. So you have to go to support, and of course you download DaVinci Resolve, whichever version you need. And after that, you need to go a little bit lower and get the DaVinci Resolve project server to add the support for multiple users on different workstations. And you can actually work on the same project at the same time. New proxy media workflow. So they have optimized a lot of things in that section. Proxy media are essentially more highly compressed and potentially, of course, lower resolution versions of your source media that are linked to your source media in DaVinci Resolve via metadata. And you can choose the resolution here, the format, the resolution. If you don't know what you're doing, just leave it like this and it's gonna do fine. So how do you actually generate a proxy media in DaVinci Resolve? Go to the media storage page, right click, and generate optimized media is right there. Although that the proxy media is only here. And those are two different things. And you're going to have actually a progress bar when you do that. And those files will go exactly where you told them to go. And if you want to revisit those folders, just go to your project setting, master setting. There you go, working folder. And these are your temporary proxy cache. You can, of course, generate proxy files, medias on another video editor and relink them. There's a few caveats, so I would encourage you to go to the documentation for all the little things that you need to watch for. Managing proxy media, we can actually manage the status and the location of all the proxy media. You can go to the media page, right-click the title bar, add proxy, and proxy media path. So you can see that this clip that I just generated, the proxy file, you can see the size of the proxy and of course the path that goes into the cache folder that I created a long time ago. And this is where you can actually relink the media or the proxy right here. Link proxy media by right-clicking and link proxy media right here. And this is actually the same place where you're gonna get to link. If you created the media proxy in another application, you can just right click here and link it here or unlink it here. Now, even if you created a proxy, you can actually switch between using the proxy or using the original. You can go to playback and uncheck or check these two options. So either optimized media or proxy media. Using proxy files for delivery, you can actually use to deliver proxy files. So you have to check an option. So let's go to the deliver page, advanced probably, because I don't see that option right here, and use optimized media or use proxy media. This can be useful if you need to save rendering time while making dailies or to quickly create outputs for your timeline, or audio engineers where master quality is not necessarily needed. Working remotely using proxy media, now that's actually pretty cool. You can create proxy media and work on those files, which will be smaller files. And let's say you want to work on a laptop, which is a less powerful machine compared to your workstation, you can actually do that. As an example, you will actually use your raw files on your workstation machine, but then you want, for example, to work on a laptop on a different location. So you will create proxy files or proxy media that's going to actually be more stable for that smaller machine. So we actually need to get a little bit more info on that. The basic steps are the same. You go to your preference, master settings, you go below and optimize and render cache. You might want to change something in there. Basically, you can choose that automatically and it should be not too bad. It should work not too bad. Then you go in your media pool, you select everything, you generate proxy media files, and then go get some coffee because that's gonna take a little bit of time. And then exactly like before, you need to export a DaVinci Resolve archive into an external drive, for example, with only proxy media checked. So go to your project manager, right click, export project archive, and then you're going to do all the steps. And of course, if you want to only export the archive with the media, the proxy media that is, you're gonna uncheck everything else and only have proxy media check. Other scenarios, of course, are, for example, you want to send a part of the project for a colorist. So this can also be done through the internet. And they do explain in the documentation that there are some differences between proxy media and timeline proxy, and the render cache, which obviously are different things. The drill down version is that the proxy media is portable, small, and will work better with smaller machines. But you should not use proxy media to render your final product. There's also some improved media handling, so if you use interlaced material. So this goes beyond the scope of this video, but you might actually read all of this if this is something that interests you. New decoding support. So there's a bunch of new, more QuickTime, RGBs, Panasonic 8K, and 32-bit PSD. That's interesting because this is Photoshop document. You can actually drag, and I'm going to show you right now. Let's say I take a PSD document and you see that it's recognized. I just drop it there, and this is the last thumbnail that I had for the last video, or one of the last videos. So this worked very well, and obviously you can drag a JPEG also, but for the 32-bit PSD format image, that is rare, but I guess that this is a demand that they had. Support for Canon and Nikon RAW formats on the inspector. If I go directly to the file, so this is a Canon CR2 file, which is a RAW file. If I go to image on the inspector, use the decode using, by default, it's project, and you can change over here. I'm going to go to clip, and you can change, for example, the exposure and other settings. It's not as smooth. Let's say you use Lightroom or Photoshop, but seems to be fine out. Of course, this is the basic, so you don't have, for example, oh yeah, there is sharpness. I'm not sure if it's working as expected. Sharpness 0. Ooh, it doesn't seem to do anything at all. So it is a first version. Obviously, they're gonna improve it later on. And it's using pretty much CPU. They added support also for that baby. Yes. So support for 12K Blackmagic RAW, Dolby Vision functionality, and I'll leave you to read this entire thing. There's a lot. New GPU support for encoders, Ampere GPUs, which are, on Linux and Windows system, which are the 30X series, the new one that no one can get. So on the delivery page, they now added Twitter. So you can actually connect your Twitter account if needed. Media pool improvements. So they have added support for viewing and adjusting media pool clips in the inspector. So usually you would actually click on something like here and adjust the clip here or the picture or whatever you're using. And that's fine, it's fine, it's working great. But what if you could do it more globally? So we're gonna go directly to the clip section. We're gonna change it to something else directly on the clip. We don't actually see the result because I'm looking at a timeline. But if I click this and I drop it here, let's make that a little bit bigger, and I click and it's already adjusted to what I put in there. So obviously when you change it in the media pool, each time you're going to drag a new version, it's going to have those changes. And changing them after that on the timeline does not affect the change that you made in the media pool. You can now import and export specific DaVinci Resolve project bins, which is pretty cool. Import and export individual DaVinci Resolve timelines. Media management of timeline, create DRT files, which I'm not familiar with. You can now disable some timelines. And that's useful when, of course, you're going to have multiple timelines, and if you disable one. So how to do that? Let's say you have access to the media pool, right click on the timeline, disable timeline, and boom, it's disabled. Obviously you can have multiple timelines. The other ones can still be edited in anything you do. If you need to have the timeline back, simply right click, enable timeline, double click on it if you want to see it, and it's back. And while a timeline is disabled, it's not using any resources of your workstation. New offline clip with relinking icon and dialog. All right. That's cool. And exclamation points for missing files or clips. Support for continuing media management job on error. So it's going to continue instead of waiting and asking a user interface, what should I do? It's just going to continue. You can now save smart bins and smart filters across projects. Pretty cool. Support for growing files in a media pool. Wait, what? Oh, yes. If you're using a third-party application that records a growing video files, that's very cool. Scripting API improvements. I'll probably skip that thing because there's no way I can test that. But let's say scripting API would be something like Lua or probably plugins. Yeah, developers, you know where to go. Now, let's get to the cut page improvements specifically. New metadata view in media pool. Wait, what? Oh, here. You need to activate the metadata view. So if I go on a clip like this one, you can actually see the video and scrub it. And obviously you have some data, so you have the date and other information about that clip. And you can obviously add some metadata, for example, scene 1, shot 1, camera B, take 1, things like that. Because now we have access to all of this, you can actually filter. So sort the media by anything you can see here. So there's a new option, audio trim view, which is right here to the left, and it should show you more details on the audio tab when activated and when you're trimming. I can't seem to make it work, but maybe I'm missing something here, but you can figure it out. There's a new safe area framing guide, which is so cool. So you can actually activate it here, and you can tell, for example, social media 1-to-1, and that's it. You can know now where is the safe area of your clip and make adjustments if necessary. That's a lot of lines, but if you need them, they're all there. Ability to import A10 Mini Pro ISO project. I don't have an A10 Mini Pro, but I'm pretty sure that you'll be very satisfied to know that now you can. Sync bin view in Cinema Viewer. So you can actually sync in view. I guess that's gonna work like this. Yes, if it's here, just press P and you'll have the full screen. Sync bin timeline audio only. Playback is possible. Dedicated timeline entry mode. Very useful for people who are using timecode a lot. And there's actually also a full screen viewer icon, which is right here, top right. And press escape to get out of there. You can also press the P key on your keyboard. If you're playing on the timeline, pressing P and spacebar, for example, you can play your clip just like normal controls. The quick export now also have the new Twitter account. So you can click the sync bin, your clip, and P. Same thing. P is always full screen anywhere. Navigable clip path in source tape. Now I don't have any hierarchy right now. So yeah, just like breadcrumbs, you can follow your path. There is a new change clip duration dialog. So right clicking anything on your timeline, change clip duration, and it's slightly different than what it was before. You can choose one or multiple clips for that operation. And it's also the same on the edit page. Editing the duration field in the cut viewer. I don't use, this is for source tape, I don't use that. Read it beyond to have more details. You can now switch timeline in the cut page. So over here, if you remember, we created another timeline, but it's now deactivated. So let's go to the media pool. In the media pool, you enable the timeline here, go back to the cut page, and now you can switch between one or another. And yes, the second one was empty, so it's normal. So it's exactly the same in the cut, edit, color, and deliver page. Navigating edit points and markers. You can now use the navigation tool, playback previous, next, clip. So this is the up and down arrow in the cut page. So it's now the same, just like in the edit page. And this is easy to test. Up, down, and it goes to the next section where it's actually another clip beginning or ending. Improve transition and effect behaviors. You can now double click a transition in the cut page transition panel. So you need to go to the transition panel to apply it directly to the edit point referenced by the smart indicator. So let's say I delete that. Let's do a barn door, and yes, it's going to apply it right now. Double clicking an effect in the FX panel applied directly to the topmost clip at the position of the playhead, which is right here. Using the DaVinci Resolve Speed Editor. I actually made a video on that. Speed Editor is that machine that you see here. It is so fun to work with, and currently I believe that the price for DaVinci Resolve Studio includes automatically the Speed Editor for the same price. So if you are a fan of the cut page, that is definitely for you. If you are a fan of tactical control, this is definitely for you. But let's say, for example, that you are a colorist. Well, the Speed Editor does not work with the color page. So I would recommend to go and watch my video on the Speed Editor for that section, or before reading that section, because I'm going to go very quickly. There's the search dial that is very, very fun, and I'm going to play a clip here. This is oddly satisfying. It's so responsive, you have no idea. And you can go like the full view. So I guess I could record the screen, but that would be like recording a screen and a screen. But it's way faster to do that than to actually program it, right? And I can confirm that it's oddly very satisfying. And I want to add that the Speed Editor will only work with DaVinci Resolve 17 and more. It will not work with 16. Next section, DaVinci Resolve Editor Keyboard Improvements using the function key on the editor keyboard. So I don't have an editor keyboard, but I'll show a picture here. And of course, the editor keyboard will work with the edit page. So there's now editor keyboard function, key map, and that's it for the new things on DaVinci Resolve 17 on that. Chapter 5, Media and Edit Page Improvements. There's a lot of new features that have been added to the media pool, right? Which is right here. You can now convert compound clips or timelines to multicam clips. Never used that, but it's good to know. You can now insert selected clips into timeline using the timecode. Never used that also, but for people using timecode, probably that this can be useful. You can now select the clips to timeline with handles. So you can insert multiple clips in the timeline serially using the current sort order of the media pool. So let's go on timeline 2 just to test that. Currently this is sorted by the date modify, but let's say I want to sort it by the clip name. This image will be the last and this video will be the first. So let's select those, insert selected clips to timeline with handles, boom. So yeah, she's last, that's first. It's working. So yeah, you can sort, for example, by date modify. Let's go here at the timeline, do the same thing. And now the last one is this clip, which is correct. And the first one is this picture, which is correct. Ability to create timelines with audio mixer preset for advanced audio workflows. I'm not there yet. But if you want more info, go to chapter 150. You can now import that format with an empty media pool. And that's it for that section. Timeline improvements. Convert Fusion compositions to edit effects. So if you have created a Fusion composition that you would like to use across a number of projects, you can now save it to the effect toolbox. So when you go to the effect library, the toolbox is this entire thing. Change transitions into Fusion compositions. So this is for complex transitions. I'll let you read in it if you want. Scroll wheel control on timeline. Additional scroll timeline. So if you click shift, that's going to grow the video part, just like if you go in the option here and you change the video here, track height. The option key, so for Windows that's going to be the Alt key, just press Alt and scroll in and scroll out and you'll be able to zoom in and zoom out. And for Mac it's the Command key, but for Windows it's the Control key. You can navigate forward and backward on the timeline, because usually if you just scroll normally, this will go up and down, but if you hold the Control key, it's left and right. Zoom around mouse pointer. You can now set up the edit timeline zoom control to stay center on the pointer as you zoom in or out, instead of staying center on the timeline playhead as usual, which is right here. So it's zooming where the mouse pointer is instead of the playhead. And this is with the Option key on Mac or Alt on Windows. Very useful. Fast review on the edit page. The fast review feature of the cut page is now available on the edit page. Fast review plays back your timeline at variable fast forward speed or rewinding speed. So you can actually go to playback and fast review here option. That's gonna play shorter clip longer and longer clips shorter. For example, when we're gonna hit that long clip, it's gonna be way faster, or supposed to be. Let's see it. Yeah, so it's playing way faster. While on the fast review mode, if you press, of course, the space bar or the GKL keys, you will go back to normal play. I can actually control everything here, no problem with the keyboard. In the studio version, create a timeline using an EMF or DCP composition playlist. Never used that. Good to know for people who use it. Track heights independent of thumbnail settings. So yes, here on the left you can change here, and you can have, of course, the thumbnail view or the film strip view. So the size here is not dependent on what you choose here. Support for DCTL based transition, more for developers. Improved frame.io marker navigation for studio version. Frame.io seems to be the modern video workflow. Improved take selector and retime control behavior. So the retime can be closed by using the escape key. Let's try that. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Or I can toggle on and off by, in my case, using Control R. You can of course also right click on the clip and use the retime control. But the escape key makes sense, especially if you don't know what the why is there space here? Escape, done. Viewer improvements. Now these are things that I do not use. Ability to monitor HDR and SDR from the edit page. I don't have an HDR monitor. Ability to monitor stereo 3D from the edit page. Ability to copy and paste timecode in viewers based on timecode mode. Additional viewer type mode for offline reference clips. And I'll let you read that if you need to. Editing improvements. Updated selection methods on the timeline. I actually tried this. So clip selection no longer automatically moves along the playhead. Instead, a new set of commands lets you create and move a selection by holding down the command key. And I've tried it and it's not working as I think it's working. But if you ever want the old version, you can also go to the timeline and click selection follow playhead. Scene cut detection on the timeline. So I've added here a video that I think it's my last one. If you need to break down a previously edited video into component clips for re-editing or color correction, you can now do so directly in the timeline using the DaVinci Neural Engine. So it's gonna re-split this up into clips. Whoa, okay. You can also use that on the cut page or in the media pool. Let's try it right away. Select your clip, choose timeline, detect scene cuts. Detecting scene cuts in clips 1 of 3. I can confirm that it's using the graphical card, about 90% in my case. And now we did resplit everything. Let's see if everything is there. Seems to be doing a not too bad job. And this can be useful for many things. Auto-align clips. So I did something from my PC and something filming myself. This is my last video, I believe. And it's all going to be able to sync the audio of multiple cameras with the audio waveform or the time code. So let's try this. Select them all. Auto-align clips based on waveform. So like you see, it won't work with every situation, but I actually tried it with different cameras and it did work. Some situation it will not work, some situation it will work. Delete gap from a range. If you go to edit, delete gaps, this will remove all the gaps in between the clips. Boom. And it will actually respect the in-out range if they are in place. Or clip selection. Let's create a few gaps here. And let's try to do this. Edit, delete gaps. Perfect. All right, so now let's go to the cut and edit page effects. You can now render in place. This allows you to render and bake in all the effects that are applied to a single clip on the edit page timeline. So let's add an effect to this last clip. Let's say Gaussian blur. If I play that, it's not really intensive, about 20% of my GPU, but let's do it anyway. Render in place right here, right clicking on the clip. You can choose a few options. Let's go for saving space. And now if I play back, probably that can help. And if you have remorse and you want to go back to the effects, right click the same clip and go back to decompose to original, and that's going to bring back your original file. There is a smart reframe that is available on the studio version only, and since there's a lot of things to do, just to use this option, I'm going to leave it to you to read it and use it if you have the studio version. Resolve effects keying in the timeline. This is so useful, and that's why I have this example with a green screen. So what you will actually do is put a background under your green screen video or any keying color you need. And we're gonna go get the 3D keyer and I'm gonna drag it on ourselves. Now in the effect tab, you're gonna have open effects here. You do need to put this into the open effects overlay. If not, you won't be able to remove the green screen. And then you can just draw on your green screen a couple of frames, and that's it. When you play after that, it's all there. Support for Resolve effects in OpenFX Alpha for track compositing. So this is using the Alpha channel. I'll let you read that. I did not use that. Same thing for compositing alpha channels on a timeline. And same thing for improved track compositing behavior for different clip-sized clips. Burn away transition. Probably that everyone that tried a beta actually put that. Let's split the clip here. And let's see what it does. There we go. So smooth. And obviously, if you go to the transition tab, you have a lot of special configuration you can actually change. Updated motion blurred transitions. If we use the barn door, push, slide, and split transitions, we have a new motion blur parameter to create more organically looking transactions. So let's use the barn doors. Let's create a split, barn doors in between. Go here, transition, motion blur. We can see right now if we sliding away. Now let's put motion blur all the way in. Oh yeah, there's a kind of a feeling of motion blur, a little bit like video games that have this option, which I usually disable. ITURBT2111-1 color bar generators. I'm pretty sure that if you know what that is, you'll actually be very, very happy about it. Oh yeah, I know those things. And there's even 3 different versions of it. Data burden enhancement. You can now support for text opacity in data burden, and you can now support for source frame numbers and number in data burden. Fusion improvements. Audio playback and waveform display in the Fusion page. Wait, what? Wow, how? But yeah, we have waveform now. Audio playback and waveform display in Fusion Studio. Oh, so this is for Fusion Studio, which I think is a separate download. So yes, confirmed. It's another download, and you actually need a license for that. Share markers. So guides and markers have been merged. That's not a bad thing. New Fusion page resolve effects. So 17 new GPU accelerated resolve effects to the Fusion page, including the color page noise reduction and sharpening tools. Good to know. I'll let you pause if you want to read further, because there's a lot of these. a lot. Fusion effect templates that you can use on the edit page. Animation curves modifier. Shape nodes. Fusion includes several vector shape nodes that can be used to create animated graphical element in motion design projects. Is that new? So yes, if we go to the effects library tools and scroll down to shape, I see those S shapes that are right here. I'm not sure if this is new, but I think it is. And there are a lot of shapes. Advanced optical flow processing. Faster GPU-based optical flow algorithm, perfect for everyone who has a great GPU. Convert standard transition to Fusion cross dissolves. You can convert any transition in the edit page into our Fusion cross dissolve. Improvements to the interface. Node view bookmark. Wait, what? Bookmarks save the position and scale of the node editor, so you can quickly and precisely jump from viewing one group nodes to viewing another. To add a bookmark. Wait, what? Okay, let's do a little thing in Fusion. Let's save that. Add a bookmark. Let's call it text1. Add. And then we're gonna go somewhere else in our composition. Let's say there's a lot of things. That's nice. That's nice for people who have large Fusion composition. Yeah, that's going to be very useful. And I see that they added some hotkeys, so probably that let us check it out. Yes, the first 9 saved bookmarks are given keyboard shortcuts. Pretty cool, so you can manage them also. Very nice. Control Shift and 1. So let's go somewhere else. Control Shift 1. Yeah. That's going to help a lot for Fusion people. Customizable toolbar. Okay, you can add or remove tools from the Fusion toolbar and then save the custom toolbar as a preset. That's pretty cool. You can, for example, create a new toolbar, or should I say preset. Let's call it Alex toolbar, and add some new tools to the toolbar. Maybe some that you use a lot. Can we do that also? No, we can't grab from that list. Then I'm going to put a splitter here. A divider, and it's going to memorize what you do with the toolbar, and then you can switch to the default one or another one that you created to get the tools faster. Of course, you can rename, delete, everything. Pretty useful, especially for people who use Fusion a lot. Vertical node editor layouts. 2 new Fusion layout presets in workspace layout presets allow for position the node editor vertically. Alright, so let's check it out. Workspace layout preset, Fusion presets, left flow here, or the other side, mid flow. Alright, but now do the bookmarks still works? Let's go far and call it back. Yeah, okay, it does work. On-screen controls for Fusion templates on the edit page. Fusion templates added to the timeline in the edit page show the on-screen controls for position, rotation, and gradient angles. Improvements to text and font size management. Well, when using non-Latin characters, so I can't really test that, but you get the idea. Automatic Fusion comp creation in DaVinci Resolve. When you switch from the Fusion page to an empty timeline, adding a node to a clip from the media pool will automatically add a media out node. Fusion Studio floating frame. So I don't use Fusion Studio, which is a separate download, like I said before. There you go. Color page improvement. Let's go to the color page. Simplify RCM setup. One of the biggest color management improvements for many DaVinci Resolve users will be the Simplify preset. And you can even go deeper in the rabbit hole by going to DaVinci Color Manage and then go into Custom, and I'm sure you're gonna have plenty of fun in there because this is the advanced RCM setup. And obviously there's so much more, like an improved metadata management, but I'm gonna let you guys, if you specialize as a colorist, probably do that by yourself because there's a lot of things in this documentation that shows great charts, I'm pretty sure, and are pretty useful for a lot of people. But in my case, this is way beyond this video and of course way beyond everything I can do right now. Maybe for some of you, now you have the HDR palette. One thing that is a little bit more accessible for everyone is the color warper. Hit that button and we have the color warper here. And let's use just that image for a small test or a small demo. There's a lot of blue. You can just drag one thing in a direction you want, or more intuitive, you can of course just click the color you want and drag along to change the color. And inside the documentation, you can look up all the thing, the interface, the control to manipulate colors, and a lot more. Magic mask. We can see the icon here, magic mask. Person, I guess I need to tell him. That's me. And this can be motion tracked. You can see here it's really well tracking my face. Oh, is it going to bring back my arm? No, so it still needs to stay in the frame. And of course there are pros and cons, or what is good for and what it's not. So page 161, if you want to have more details. Sat versus lump curve. So we can make adjustment only with these. Interesting. Whoa. I can see how this can work in the workflow. LUT improvements, custom LUT paths, support for generating 17.3D LUTs. I don't use LUTs, so that's why I'm showing you the doc right now. Video range LUTs, improvements to existing tools, primaries palette that you see to the left here, or in bar formats that you can see here, that you can change here. Improve power curve window drawing, split screen previews on multiple playheads, additional white modes in the color viewer, and way more things. Because as you know, DaVinci Resolve is actually really renowned for the color and get real great results. A lot of companies actually make movies in any other software. They assemble the movie and then they colorize in DaVinci Resolve. It's normal that the color page has a lot of improvements. DaVinci Resolve Advanced Panel Update. You can buy new panels or buy new keys to replace the keys you have on your existing panel. What do I mean by panels? Those things. Very different compared to the Speed Editor. Well, let's just say that it's a more advanced control panel compared to the Speed Editor. And this is why it's actually a couple of 50 pages just for that in the documentation. So I'll let you guys go in there if you want to have more details with the advanced panel updates. There's a lot more of new effects that are there and improvements to the existing effects. Since these are really a lot for studio only, I'm going to skip this chapter, but I already showed you the 3D keyer, which is very useful, that you can actually use straight from the edit page. About the same thing for chapter 11, Fairlight page improvements, and there's a lot of great things for people who are using Fairlight. I don't really use it. Completely redesigned Fairlight audio engine allows for seamless playback up to 1,000 tracks. Alright, let's do it. There's a new format support, decode and encode MP3 audio on Linux. I'm not sure if this is a licensed thing, since when I was installing Linux machines, I remember that we had to manually add the MP3 format to all the stations if you wanted to go on the website, for example, a long time ago. And there are new features and enhancements This is a lot of tracks, but when there's a track for every person in the scene, just for the footsteps, trust me, you're gonna have a lot of audio tracks. Next chapter, using the Fairlight desktop console. Now, if you want to use that, and if you have the Fairlight desktop console, of course, it's a module, a little bit like the Speed Editor, but a little bit bigger. Remember that you need to install the DaVinci Control Panel setup, which is when you install DaVinci Resolve. You have to check it. And that sends us to the last page, the deliver page, which they have a lot of improvements. And those improvements are more focused on advanced settings for professional workflows. I'll still show a couple. One of this improvement is the media offline warning at the render cur. So I just rename a file, and if we go to the left, you can see that the file is offline, and I'll try to add to render cur. Boom, add with offline clips. Oh, it's actually good to have this warning before sending that to the cur. And you have the choice. You can either add it or cancel as you wish. One more option is actually the one that you can render jobs for projects in all connected DaVinci Resolve databases. So usually you would be limited to only your database, but now you can actually do it for other databases also. Remember to check this. Of course, there's more details than just checking one thing, so you'll have to look at the reference manual for all the details. For those who are very advanced, you can now go to the advanced section of the exporting dialog, and you can actually trigger a script after or before rendering a job. And this must be either in Python or in Lua, of course. There's another couple of things that are pretty much out of my league right now, like support for rendering alpha channel in single clip mode. All right, no problem. Since I don't use ProRes or DNHR, and these are very specific to some industries, of course. And this is the end of the entire DaVinci Resolve 17 What's New feature guide. Whoa! And now I need to edit this entire video. So you can subscribe and like the video, but probably that this video was probably way too long. Take care and see you in the next video.